Hello guys, welcome to another Minecraft video by Smurfmasher. Today we were here with Naruto650 and it's a subscriber school video. So he's brought me onto his world to have a look at a couple of his builds and we're going to try and improve them. He's trying to build a medieval village here and he wanted some tips and some help, so I've come along to give a hand. Now looking at these two builds here, what I've said to him is that there's certain elements here that aren't strictly medieval that we need to change. So key things are the flat roof that you have on both of these builds. Medieval times, they didn't have some of the more sophisticated building techniques that we have today. They only had wood and tiles, and therefore all roofs had to have a V-shape with a wooden structure underneath in order to support it. So a flat roof wouldn't really work. So what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to do for this first build is to add a roof structure. We're going to add some more detail. And the second thing that I've had a look at here is, if you look at these windows. Now the windows are solid and they're quite large. Now you tend to get this kind of design generally in modern builds. That's because glass is very cheap compared to medieval times today, and in addition to that you can get away with large windows because you've got steel in the builds, or there's the use of concrete which allows large open expanses inside the wall which don't require any structural support. Medieval times they just had wood flexed quite a bit. You couldn't do that because it would just end up crushing the glass, and also again glass was very expensive. So what we're doing here is we're just adding the roof structure onto this. Now I'm doing the same classic design that I always use with these medieval style builds. I'm going 1 1 then 2 and then 1, and this gives it a more sloping look to the build, and I think it adds a little bit more flair to it than if you just do a standard 45-degree angle roof. It gives it a bit more character. So yeah, Naruto's going to copy me and duplicate what I'm doing on the other side, as you can see there, and we're slowly getting that structure in place. Okay, so now what we need to do is break up these areas with large sections of glass. I'm going to use some oak blocks here just to break it up a little bit more, and already that looks more medieval because we've got smaller windows. I'm going to add some cobblestone wall on the edges. Now that looks too solid, so I'm going to break that up even more by adding some fence in the centre, and that makes it look a little bit more rustic. A little bit more detail always helps. And I'm going to get Naruto to copy what I'm doing on the right hand side that I'm doing on the left here. Now this is still too bland, we need to add some more detail, so I'm going to add some window ledges with some upside down stairs and stairs the right way up underneath, and this just creates indents in the wall which just gives you some more detail, and it's all about detail. So I'm just experimenting, just trying different things just to see what I can do in this limited amount of space. And looking at that, it looks alright, but it looks like one solid colour of oak there, so I'm going to have to do something about that in a minute. But let's break it up with some slabs as well, and the way to do that is to just extend the roof structure there, and I'm going to do that on both sides, and this gives the roof an even more sloping shape, as you can see. What I'm doing now is another thing that people quite often miss, and that is to avoid the roof being on the same flat plane as the rest of the build underneath. You want a clear differentiation between the roof and the wall. And also, if this was a real house, you'd expect there to be some kind of an overhang so that the rain that's dripping off of it don't just run straight down the side of the walls. It makes it look more real. What I'm doing here as well is I'm finding flat areas and seeing how I can break it up. I'm just sticking some cobblestone wall in there, and I hope you can see that that looks a little bit better. It gives you a bit more definition there. Okay, so moving on to the rear of the house, same thing. We had too much glass there, so I'm breaking that up in a similar way to what I did on the left hand and right hand side. and we've got 2 windows together, which looks okay. It's not too big, it looks believable for a medieval house. I'm just getting rid of some of this grass and the flowers are getting in the way there, and we just need to figure out how to detail this. So I'm going to add some shutters to this, just to add some detail at the bottom here, and then I'm going to add a kind of like a barn-like entrance at the top with a ladder going up to it. So maybe this could be an area for storing hay in a loft, whereas the people use the shop area underneath for the day-to-day basis, or perhaps they just had some stores that were locked up at the top. Perhaps not the best option if you wanted to keep out burglars, but you know, maybe this is a really small little village and everybody knows everybody, so it's all good. And initially I put the door there, which isn't any good, because when you go up the ladder you want a little bit of a lip to stand on before you open the door, and putting it on the inside achieves that. Now what I'm doing is I'm putting some stairs in upside down, just these are spruce wood stairs upside down, and that gives a little bit more detail in the roof, and I like it, so I'm going to do it on both sides. Okay, that's looking pretty good. Now, I've gone around to the other side again now, and I'm not happy with the solid horizontal line that you've got there. So there's a colour difference between the oak and the planks, but if I add the shutters over the top of the planks, it grades the different colours in together, and it adds more definition and looks more realistic. And I think it just looks better, so if it looks good, do it. If it looks bad, don't do it. So you just be free to experiment and try different things, and you know, be willing to sort of look at your build critically and think, right, what can I add there? Where is it bland? Now what I'm going to do is, looking at the left hand side, it looks bland. There's a solid expanse of roof there, which just looks boring. So I'm going to put a window in just to break it up. Now I'm going to use the oak wood that he's using there just to create a frame for the window. So now you need to extend the roof so that it supports and goes around that framework that we've just created, so that it still looks like the roof has integrity and that the rain will just run straight off of it, off the sides of that window that we just created. Now always try to make sure that your windows are done with uneven numbers, so you've got a centre or a middle that you can put in. Not so important for a modern build, but for a medieval build, as you're always dealing with small windows and normally there's just one column of glass instead of maybe 2, 3 or 4. Keep it with odd numbers so that you can always put a middle in there. So you can put a structural support in centre, or keep the size of the windows to a minimum. And I'm doing the same thing that I always do, which is to put stairs upside down, and below is a little window ledge. And this time I haven't used glass, I've used a fence. And again, that works into the idea that in medieval times windows were quite expensive to make if you did them entirely with glass. Quite often they just use wooden shutters instead, or pieces of twigs that are just lined up just to keep the bugs out but still allow light in. So that makes it look a little bit more realistic and more in keeping with the time by adding wood instead of glass. Now we're going to do the other side of the roof. Again, it was a bland, expansive roof, so we're going to break it up. But this time we're not going to be using a window, we're going to break it up with a chimney. Chimneys are great for adding a bit of life and character to your build, especially got smoke billowing out the side of it. It looks like the house is actually occupied and in use. And you can do a very simple design with just 3 blocks coming up with a cobblestone wall on the top, and then just put some smoke coming off the top of it using spiderweb. I'm going to make it a bit more interesting than that. I think it needs to look like it's got some structure underneath it that tapers up to create the chimney. This is done by adding the cobblestone stairs there. And I'm also going to add an angle to it by putting cobblestone stairs facing that way, and then putting some facing upwards on the other side, and then a block on top. And that just twists the chimney and gives it a bit more of a fantasy look. And now I'm going to spam spiderweb going backwards in the same way that I created the wireframing for the mountain that I did previously in my other video. And that is the build completed. And if we look around that's looking pretty good. Right, Naruto, are you happy with this build? Are you pleased with the way it's come out? Let's see if he nods. Okay, Naruto's happy and so am I. There's one more build to do though, and that's in part 2. Hope to see you then. Please like, comment and subscribe. Thanks for watching.